Boca Raton isn't the only place in South Florida that's dealing with a new city hall. Turns out Fort Lauderdale is doing the same thing. And there are a lot of proposals, which if you've seen the thumbnail or read anything about this, you know that there are 6 very distinct, different proposal layouts for what this new downtown city hall project will look like. The devastating flood back in 2023 forced the old city hall to shut down. So Fort Lauderdale now faces a once-in-a-generation opportunity.
I think you need to spend a bunch of time really thinking through functionality and design in order to make this decision. Plus, some of these are very extravagant and some are more cost effective, probably. What happened is one of the developers submitted an unsolicited proposal. And because of the rules and et cetera, the city had to go ahead and open this up to other developers to get bids and see what their proposals were. I think it was Meridian Infrastructure of North America that was the ones that also built the Port Miami tunnel and many other things, were the ones that kind of unsolicited just sent in their proposal saying, hey, you guys got to do something with this. We're here. We're ready. Take a look at this option.
Especially since we're going to talk a little more about Fort Lauderdale and its transformation over the past few years. Once upon a time, it was referred to as the spring break capital of the world. But today, the city is rewriting its story with luxury skyscrapers, global finance firms, Michelin-starred restaurants, and a booming cultural scene. I just saw an article from, I believe, WLRN that their economic footprint in Florida has grown by 44% since 2019. So Fort Lauderdale, it is growing. There is a lot of stuff happening here.
We've worked with a number of clients who relocate to the area, and there's this draw to Fort Lauderdale for its proximity to Miami, yet not being in Miami, its proximity to multiple international airports, its culture is different from Miami, different from West Palm. So there's this middle ground. Its density of employers, I think that's just scaled dramatically over the years. As the article that we're referring to is mentioned, it's kind of like West Palm gets headlines, Miami gets headlines. Fort Lauderdale, for some reason, feels like it doesn't get as many. Quietly, Fort Lauderdale has been just evolving, growing, and becoming a monster in every aspect of the community down here. Fort Lauderdale being the yachting capital of the world, arguably, right?
Yeah, no, that's the label. You can't take that away from them.
Yeah, you could argue that for sure. And then Port Everglades being one of the busiest cruise ports in the world, and so you have just this mix of. You have this mix of a trifecta, or they were calling it the Golden Triangle, right?
What stood out to me, earlier this year when I was getting some drone shots kind of on the north side of downtown was, it was all that construction going on, and not just, random buildings. I mean, very, very tall skyscrapers that stood out that you're like, wow, I had no idea this much activity was going on here.
And I still think there's certain areas in Fort Lauderdale's downtown market that is still kind of undervalued on some level, right? Long term, it's undervalued, in my opinion, without question. There's certain neighborhoods that haven't got the same value kick from new construction that we've seen in Del Rey or Boca Raton in their downtowns. If you compare some of these new construction homes that are selling for 3 or 4 in downtown Fort Lauderdale area, or the East Fort Lauderdale area, and then to Boca or Del Rey, you'll see that Fort Lauderdale's the value play on some level, which is kind of interesting.
We're going back to Boca. You may know about the Boca Raton Innovation Campus right there off Humano. It's a very distinct setup where they call it brick, I guess. It was where the IBM, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it was IBM invented the personal. They're doing some real expansion with it. Here's what's coming. 1,200 residential units across luxury condos and market rate apartments. You got a walkable retail village, grocery store, shops, restaurants. And that's not all. 55,000 square foot entertainment facility plus 140 room hotel.
123 acres. It's a huge parcel of land. And the utilization of it is very like 2-story, like older. Again, this was here when IBM
Right.
invented
It looks a little
computer.
dated. I mean, it
So
stands out, but that doesn't mean I didn't think it was dated at all. It looks like it's exactly what I would picture for innovation in the early 1980s. Like if I was watching a TV movie on the beginning of computers, that's exactly what I would picture it looking like. It's not falling apart or anything. It just looks a little dated.
it actually is huge. It holds 1.7 million square feet of office space. And it's owned by CP Group along with its partners. Developers like
Aren't they
Terra and
always?
CP Group say this isn't just construction, it's about activating the campus with wellness, art, culture, and community all year round. So Terra inserted themselves into this somehow. They're a part of this. Sometimes these big firms, they partner up to diversify risk, right?
Evidently, there's $1 billion real estate war chest about to hit Palm Beach and Boca, and it's backed by none other than Donald Trump Jr. So 1789 Capital, we are focused on this real estate fund on South Florida development. That's quite a it's quite a war chest.
Well, I just want to point out again, Frisbee Group is
Yeah, the other side of Terra
is the other partner with Terra in the Boca Raton campus redevelopment project, government campus redevelopment project. So again, you just see the same names kind of pop up, and these are all huge players. Donald Trump Jr. as an example, right? And 1.3 billion funneled into South Florida. Again, this is like, it's like nonstop with this stuff, right? Forget, and if you just forget the big guys for a second, like just the little guys, and by little I mean the guy that has $50 million is running around here, and there's plenty of those guys. I think I've said this a number of times. People fly from out of the area to come down here and buy something, and they kind of come to me and they're like, hey, it's going to be cash. Like, we should be able to get a deal. It's going to be cash. I'm like, everybody's kind of cash here, right? When you're playing this like $2 to $10 million game, like everybody's kind of cash, man. So it's like, and so like, that's just the example on the lower end of things, but on the higher end of things, like the Donald Trump Jr. stuff, it's like there's plenty of guys playing with $1 billion running around here too. Stephen Ross.
Yeah,
Jeff
I was going to
Green.
say, right?
Like, and you could just go to Ken Griffin, like in Miami. You could just go down the list of these guys that are just like making crazy purchases, crazy development plays. And this here, right? Like, John, like, you're always like, is it over? Like, are they slowing down? And then you like see a headline like this.
I'm like, it can't be that bad.
Yeah, they're not slowing down. They're still coming. They're still doing this. They're doing this right now. This is happening today, right? This is a new article. So it's like all the guys that we've been talking about that have been doing this, they're probably not slowing down, and these other guys are coming in still. So there's clear belief that South Florida is becoming this massive economic hub, and these big players want to be in it.
Let's talk about Related Ross. Hey, they're in a court battle. I'm sure that's nothing new when you get to that point. And Related Ross is engaged in a legal battle with Fort Partners over a condominium complex in West Palm Beach. If you're familiar with it, the Harbor Towers and Marina condominium on South Flagler Drive, it's become the center of a fierce developer showdown. On the one side, we got Related Ross, the powerhouse behind so many of these recent West Palm Beach projects. On the other is Fort Partners. They're a Miami-based firm best known for Four Seasons residences. Now, both are racing to buy out owners at record prices, but under new condo rules, lawsuits, and infighting among the residents, it's turned this one into one of the most dramatic real estate battles in South Florida right now. So, Larry, do you have your popcorn ready?
It sits on land every developer wants. Obviously, in early 2025, Fort Partners began buying units after acquiring 2 adjacent apartment buildings for $20 million, signaling a wider Flagler Drive play. Related Ross entered the chat, matching and sometimes topping offers. In April 2025, the condo board, now controlled by Fort Partners employees, because they had so many condos that they owned, they switched control, and this is a thing, right? So like these guys wouldn't have entered this, Fort Partners wouldn't have entered this if they didn't entirely understand the docs first. And so they're like, them and their attorneys are like, okay, we get 20 of these units, bingo. Like, right. Like we can then do crazy stuff that will make it unappealing for the rest of the owners to continue to live here / own it, and they'll have to sell to us or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
So Fort Partners employees amended the documents to give the association a right of first refusal. Okay, so that's easy. That's not the end of the world. Somebody shows up, somebody wants to sell one of their condos. Basically, they almost have to sell it to Fort Partners. Okay, because the association is now controlled by Fort Partners, and so Fort Partners gets the right to buy it. And actually, we've had this happen. This is crazy. I had a client that was not happy about this at all. We represented the buyer. We ended up finding him something else, but he was very unhappy about this. We became aware that there was a right of first refusal in place on one of these buildings that he was buying into. We got under contract. We went through all the documents. We did our inspection. We were ready to do this deal. And as we're reviewing these documents during the diligence period, bingo, these guys show up. And they're just like, hey, we're going to buy this thing. And so the owner is like, hey, I have no choice here. This is the rules. I have to sell this thing to them. And so we're like,
common? Is that very common when it comes to these condo HOA rules or whatever?
No, but this one was in Boynton Beach. And I don't know where they stand now, if they own most of the building or what. They owned a ton of units. They owned like 100+ units in there because it was a bigger building. And so we sold it, and then we're like, well, we let it go. We had to let it go. That was the rules. And they refunded us for inspection stuff. But my buyer came in town, found a unit he liked, left town.
Time, I get
thought he was done, and now he's coming back to town to do this, right? So it's like to find the next one. It sucked. It sucked. I learned the hard way. That's like a thing now. We ask, right?
And here's my question. The people that get right of first refusal, do you think they're not even notified until a sale's about to go down, and they have the option of coming in and swooping in the last minute?
Some people, like, you're notified, but like, does anybody really look at their docs or their you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they do what they're supposed to do, which is notify them in the proper manner. But then it's like, who knows, right? So, yeah. So let's see what happened after that. Related cried foul, calling it an illegal maneuver to block its purchases. Fort said it's enforcing a valid right. The result, a barrage of lawsuits, not just developers versus developers, but against individual owners who signed with the rival, which is just bananas. So yeah, let's see here. So what transpired from there? So some owners said yes to the eye-popping contracts up to 5 times market value in at least one case, only to get pulled into litigation when the association tried to exercise the right of first refusal when the other developer challenged the deal.